look ahead adder. Okay, so this is the block diagram of that. Starting from the block diagram, the complete concept of 4-bit carry look ahead adder, along with some of the important terms, I'm going to be explaining it to you guys. Okay, so please listen to this video. This is very important. So let us start with the concept of 4-bit carry look ahead adder. So this is the basic block diagram. So here, as the name suggests, so it is a 4-bit carry look ahead adder. So that's why we are using four full adders here. Okay, so we are using four full adders, and here we are the carries are not generated from the previous adders. Instead, they are generated from the carry look ahead network here. Okay, so based on this carry look ahead network, the carries would be generated for that present state of adders, and we would be getting one sum, and instead of the carry we are getting two terms which are very important. One is called as generator and propagator at each stage of adder. Okay, so this is the P stands for propagator and G stands for generator. Okay, in general, these are the equations which are used to represent these generators and propagators. Okay, so you see here P of I is equal to A of I XORed with P of I. This is called as carry propagator, and G of I is equal to A of I into B of I, that is carry generator. Okay, so these two expressions are very important with respect to the carries getting generated at each stage of uh, uh, full adder. Okay, as the name suggests, carry look ahead, right? So the name indicates that the carry is not being attained from the previous adder. Instead, it is getting generated from the new network formed, which that is called as carry look ahead network. Okay, look ahead means you need to be focusing on the upcoming block based on the generator and propagator previous expressions. Okay, yeah. So you see here the connections. It is same as the previously whatever we have discussed. Initially, we are having three inputs: A naught, B naught, and the initial carry, that is C naught. Whatever it is zero, that you should be considering here. Okay. Based on that, we are getting one sum S naught. So instead of carry, we should be having the values of generator and propagator. Okay. So this is P naught and G naught. In general, I've told you the expressions for P of I and G of I. So with respect to that, you should be finding the values of P naught and G naught, and you should be putting it in this relation in order to get the next stage carry. So that is C1. Okay, so that's why this formula I've written it. This is very important. That is C of I plus 1 is equal to G of I plus P of I into C of I. Okay, so here in this stage, whatever the value of P naught and G naught you get right after this substitution here, after you put this in this formula from the whatever inputs generated, that you should be substituting in this equation, so that you would be getting the new stage carry for the next adder, that is C1. So if you put that in this equation, with respect to that, you would be getting C1, and A1 B1 would be the new inputs. Okay, that is the those are already given, A1 B1, and with respect to these three inputs, the sum would be generated as S1. And next we are having again the next stage generator and propagator values, that you put it in this equation, so that you would be getting C2. Again the same thing for the next block, three inputs A2 B2 C2, and one sum is generated, and generator propagator whatever is there, that you need to be giving it to the carry lookup network in order to get the next value of C3, and so on. Okay, like that you do it until you get the value for C4, and stop it when you get the value for C4, and this is a complete carry look ahead adder block diagram. Okay, so hope this is clear. Now with respect to some substitutions, let us try to be analyzing the complete circuit now. First, as I've told you initially, this is the expression in order to get the next stage carry, right? That is C of I plus 1 is equal to G of I plus P of I into C of I. That all we are going to be putting here one by one. That is, firstly, we are considering the value of I as 0, that is for the first stage, okay, for the first adder. So if you put the value of I is equal to 0 for this first block, you would be getting C1, right? You would be getting C1, right? So that's why from this equation only, that is, if I is 0, it would be 0 plus 1. So C1 is equal to G naught plus P naught into C naught. So this is the value of C1 we get, that is the first carry stage. Next is for I is equal to 1, that is 1 plus 1. So C2 we would be getting, that is equal to G1 into P1 plus, so G1 plus P1 into C1. So whatever C1 we got right, that you substitute here from this equation. So we would be getting G1 plus P1 into G0 plus P0 C0. So this you multiply it and write it together, that is G1 plus P1 G0 plus P1 P0 C0. So this is for I is equal to 1. Similarly, you solve for I is equal to 2, that is C3 is equal to G2 plus P2 C2. So C2 we have already got it here previously, that you need to be substituting it and multiply it with the P2 the whole term, that is G2 plus P2, right? P2 into G1 plus P2 into P1 into G naught plus P2 P1 P naught C naught. Okay, like this same for the phi I is equal to 3, so that you would be getting C3 as well as C4. Like this, you should be calculating all the four stage carries starting from C1 up to C4, so that this complete carry lookup network would be generated. Okay, so hope this is clear. And with respect to the whatever the generator and propagator expressions you get, we have drawn one simple basic block diagram, which is very important. Okay, you see here how it is done. That is, this is with respect to sum here. This is S of I, right? S of I is the sum, and we know that for a full adder stage, sum is A XOR with B XOR with C, right? So that stage is done here, and generator expression is given by AI into BI, right? So that's why here you see here AI into BI, that is given through AND gate, and AI XORed with BI, that is given through XOR gate. Okay, so this is XOR gate. Okay, and that is the propagator. Like this we have done, and now for each stage, that is for C1, C2, C3, C4, we have drawn the logical block diagrams. That is, C1 is the answer for C1. We have got it as G naught into, sorry, G naught plus P naught into C naught. So initially P naught into C naught, that is given through AND gate, and the output is given through G naught with OR gate, so that you will be getting C1. Similarly for C2 also, whatever expression you get, mention it in the logical, mention it using logic gates for C2, C3 as well as C4. Okay, like this you should be completely constructing the 4-bit carry look ahead adder. Okay, hope this is clear. This is very important, guys. Please go through it. Generator and propagators you need to be knowing, so that you will be completely understanding this carry look ahead adder block diagram concept related to master slave JK flip flop. Okay, so this is there in your syllabus, and there are high chances that they might be asking this question also. Okay, yeah. So let us start now. Master slave JK flip flop. A JK flip flop is a type of a 1-bit memory element having inputs namely J and K. Okay, so this is a 1-bit memory element, as we have seen in the previous video under the definition of JK flip flop. It is basically a 1-bit element which has the inputs J and K, one clock input and two outputs specified by Q and Q dash. Okay, why there are two outputs that are specified by Q and Q dash? Because Q is the general output of the present state, and Q dash, whatever we get, right, that would be getting after one toggle signal. So that's why it would be its complement, and that input, that Q dash output is called as the next state output. Okay, because we need to be comparing the present state and next state output for every clocks, right? For every clock pulses, it would be getting changed. So that's why we would be having two specified outputs, Q and Q dash. The JK flip flop is an improved version of SR flip flop, because we have already discussed in the previous video also, that is a JK flip flop would be neglecting the final condition of 1 1. In the SR flip flop, for the final combination 1 1, the output was invalid, right? Because we were having the outputs Q and Q bar, so that's why we won't be getting the reverse input. So that's why in order to avoid that condition, the JK flip flop would be taking 1 1 bits from the outputs and it would be connecting through the inputs. Okay, so in order to avoid that condition, which does not have the forbidden state. To avoid the forbidden or indeterminate state, the outputs of JK flip flop are fed back to its inputs. However, due to these feedback paths, a new problem is raised in the circuit, which are called as race around condition. Okay, why? Because since we are giving outputs to the inputs, right, we won't be getting accurate outputs. Whatever outputs we provide, right, that would be looping in an complete circuit, and we won't be get it, that output won't be coming out of the circuit. Okay, so because you see here that output is fed back to the input again and again, right? So that's why it is called as a race around condition. Okay, the race around condition in the JK flip flop is a major problem in which the outputs of the flip flop are toggled continuously till the end of the applied clock signal. Okay, so in order to stop that toggling condition or the loop condition, we need to be applying the clock signal, right? And based on the clock signal limit, till that time it would be continuously toggling, right? So in order to avoid that toggling condition, we are using this kind of flip flop that is called as master slave JK flip flop. Okay, so let us see what this does. So you see here, to avoid the problem of a race around condition in JK flip flop, we use the JK flip flop in the master and slave mode. Okay, so these are the two modes. So from the name itself, it suggests master slave JK flip flop. There are two modes in this. One is the master mode and slave mode. Okay, hence the JK flip flop is called as master slave JK flip flop. So let us start with the basic construction of this master slave JK flip flop. So this master slave JK flip flop is a combination of two JK flip flops which are connected in the cascaded manner. Okay, so this is the figure you see here. There are it is a combination of two JK flip flops here. So these are the two blocks here of JK flip flops. One is called as master flip flop and another one is called as slave flip flop. Okay, so and see the intermediate connections which is made through one clock signal is given, and J and K are the inputs here, and Q and Q dash are given as the inputs for the second flip flop, which is the slave flip flop. And here from the Q and Q dash, whatever output is fed, that is fed back to the input again. Okay, so this is the complete master slave JK flip flop connection. And from clock signal, we are giving one NOT gate to the another clock signal, so that we will be getting the continuous pulses. Okay, so this is that diagram, guys. Please note it down. So you see some of the construction part here, what and all is there. In this combination of two JK flip-flop, one acts as a master flip-flop and other acts as a slave flip-flop as shown in the figure. Okay. In the master slave flip-flop, the outputs of the master JK flip-flop are connected to the inputs of the slave JK flip-flop. That is, you see here, these are the outputs, right? These outputs are connected as the inputs for the next flip-flop, that is the slave flip-flop. Okay. In the master slave JK flip flop, a NOT gate inverter is also used, which is connected to clock signal in a manner that the inverted clock signal is applied for the slave flip flop. Okay, because in order for the continuous pulses, that is high low, we need to be applying an inverter, right? So in order to get the inverted clock pulses, so that's why we are attaching an inverter in between these two flip flops. Okay, therefore, when clock signal to master flip flop is 0, then for slave flip flop, the clock signal would be 1 or vice versa. Okay. Yeah. So this is with respect to gates here. You see how the connections are made here. They are used two AND gates and one clock signal, and through this SR flip flop. So with respect to the construction of SR flip flop, this JK flip flop is constructed like this. Okay, so these are the two SR flip flop connections made from clock signal. They have given one inverter, and the outputs are fed back to this AND gate in order to get the complete construction of the JK flip flop. Okay, so this diagram is also very important. Please note it down. Now the operation part, what it actually does. Let us see what it actually does now. Operation of this flip flop. So when the clock pulse goes to high, the slave flip flops becomes inactive, and the inputs J and K can control the state of the system. Okay, so this is only when the clock pulse is high, that is whenever it is in the high level stage. Okay, so this is the high pulse, right? So whenever that clock pulse is high, it means that the flip flop is active and the operation is taking place, and the inputs would be getting in the control state. Okay, so this is one condition. Now when the clock pulse goes back to low, the information is transferred from master flip flop to slave flip flop. Okay, and the final output of the system is obtained. So it happens only after high signal is obtained, and then after some time the signal becomes low, and that's the time when the master flip flop information would be given to the slave flip flop, and the final output is obtained. Okay, so through this one clock pulse high and low signal, the complete clock pulse signal would be obtaining one single output. Okay, so from the circuit it is clear that master flip flop is positive level triggered and slave flip flop is negative level triggered. Okay, so we have seen, right, master flip flop is positive and slave flip flop is negative level trigger. Okay, consequently the master flip flop responds before the slave flip flop. So let us see for the each input condition what happens. For the first condition, when j equal to 0 and k equal to 0. Okay, when these two are equal to 0, both jk flip flops remain inactive, and hence output q remains unchanged. Okay, this is called as the hold state of the master slave jk flip flop. Okay, you see when both the inputs are 0, the state of the jk flip flop is inactive, and output q, whatever was there in the previous state, would be repeated at the present state also. Okay, so that's why the output remains unchanged, and this state is called as the hold state. Okay, so this is for the first case. So for the second case, when j equal to 0 and k equal to 1, what happens? You see here, the output q bar, that is the next state output of the master flip flop, is high and goes to the input k of the slave flip flop. Okay, so the q bar would be high and it would be going through the slave of the flip flop. The clock signal forces the slave flip flop to reset. Therefore, the slave flip flop has the same output as that of the master flip flop. Okay, so it means that for high q bar and low q, this is called as the reset state of the master slave flip flop. So in summary, you could be telling that when for the second case, when j equal to 0 and k equal to 1, the output would be at a reset state when q bar is high and q is low. Okay, q bar would be equal to 1 and q would be equal to 0. Okay, similarly for the third state, when j equal to 1 and k equal to 0, it is just vice versa of this condition, that is output q would be high and output q bar would be low. Okay, so the negative transition of the clock signal sets the slave flip flop, whereas in this case it was positive transition, right? So hence it is called as the set state of master slave flip flop. Okay, so here in the second case, it would be in the reset state, and in the third case, for j equal to 1 and k equal to 0, it would be in the set state when output q is equal to 1 and q bar is equal to 0. Okay. In the final case, when both the inputs are high, that is when j and k both are equal to 1, for this combination, the master flip flop toggles on the positive transition of the clock pulse and slave flip flop toggles on the negative transition of the clock pulse. Okay. Hence, the problem of the race around condition of the JK flip flop is solved because of the toggling, the race around condition or the invalid forbidden state condition would be solved. Okay, yeah. So these were the four cases, and this is the truth table with respect to master slave JK flip flop for four combinations of inputs 00, 01, 10, 11. As I have told you, qn plus 1, that is the next state. Qn for 00, it would be in the same state, it won't be changing. For 01, the output is 0. For 10, the output is 1. For 1 1, the output is in the toggle state. Okay, it would be continuously changing its pulses, so please note it down. And this is the timing diagram with respect to this truth table form. Okay, for j, k, clock signal, present state output, next state output. For this is for master flip flop, these both outputs. Then this is for slave flip flops. Okay, so this is the timing diagram. You could be checking by giving the inputs and checking for the outputs at each stage. Okay, so this is the complete timing diagram, guys. Okay, please note it down. So you see here, when both the inputs are low and when clock is 0, what would be the output? The output would be unchanged, right? So that's why here qm and qm bar, the output remains the same, right? Yeah. So like this, the complete timing diagram goes. So please note it down. Okay.